Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
And today our topic is automation. That's a very big topic. We're not going to cover all the little messy details of automation. We'll leave that to the Elon Musks of the world who know a lot more, who have the mechanical engineering degrees. But I think we're going to talk more about the effects of automation on humans. And,
especially, I want to talk about automation and jobs.
Yes, yeah, humans' jobs. The robots don't care if they're gainfully employed. Not yet, they don't.
No. Humans do.
But they will soon.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay, do you want to just kind of talk about, start off with what is automation and the history of automation?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, because it's really the history of what's computer from like the 18th century.
Yes, what is a computer? Yeah.
Yeah, so you start there. Don't forget to throw in Alex Turing. I recently watched The Imitation Game, which was a good movie about Alex Turing during the war. Sad story, but it was incredible. Yeah. Anyways, have you seen the movie?
You know, I haven't. I mean, I know a little bit about Alex Turing, but I should watch that movie.
Yeah, no, you should. Everyone should watch it. To me, I kind of wanted a little more of a documentary. I was like, oh, how? It's basically, long story short, is he was responsible for the machine that broke Enigma, the German military codes, and basically won the Allies the war. But they were talking about his relationship with other people, and I was like, what kind of capacitors are they using?
You wanted a little more technical detail.
Yeah.
A little less on the human side.
What are the algorithms? What are the algorithms?
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a very interesting story. So you should start with the computers, dating back in the Roman times up through the modern time. Alex Turing with the invention of the electronic so it's funny because he invented a digital computer, and naturally when we think computer, at least when I think computer, I'm like, yeah, a computer, it's digital, obviously.
Yeah,
but he was the person who coined the term digital computer. This was like a big deal. Okay, so I'll let you go now.
Well, I don't know that I was ready to talk about the whole history of computers and automation, but I'll talk a little bit about that as we lead into, what I think is the dire future of humans working. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. But anyway, originally, and if you look up the definition of computer, I don't know what the definition of computer says now, but, I don't know, 100 years ago or so, the definition of a computer was someone who computes. So it was a person who did computation. And that's what a computer was. And that word has been around for, a fairly long time as people have been computing. And then along came the automated computers, but they weren't digital, but they would add things up. Essentially, you could add numbers up and even subtract numbers, not using any digital, just using gears and levers and things like that. Eventually we came to digital computers, but even just not talking about computers, just talking about automation, right? Because we've had automation in the workplace before we had digital computers. So I guess it's a broad topic having to do with the idea of replacing people in the workplace with some kind of machine that is doing part of what they did before or all of what they did before. And whether that's a computer, whether that's a machine, whether that's a robot, any of those things would, in my mind, are considered, automation. And I I mean, I guess we probably should maybe talk about, that was probably definitely not enough history for you, and I didn't even mention touring. But we could talk about the history of people's jobs or parts of their jobs being replaced, and then, I want to talk about the near future of that.
Continue. We have lots of time.
Oh, okay. Well, anything you want to add about my very, very, very brief history?
No.
Okay. So, in a way, this threat has been around for a long time, right? That technology and machines and computers and robots are going to take over our jobs, and no one's going to have any work anymore because the machines are going to be doing everything.
And they have.
And they have in many ways. And right now, and definitely not wanting to get into politics in our podcast, because there are surely enough politics podcasts out there. But it is and I'm not going to get into politics except to say that it's a very hot topic right now about jobs, right, in the U.S. and probably worldwide, and, concern about jobs. And in the U.S., the politics around that is all about, negotiating good trade deals and jobs going to other countries. But I see the much bigger disruptor, and I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm not the first one. There's lots of people that are talking about the bigger disruptor that we're perhaps not paying enough attention to is the change and loss of jobs due to automation, which has been going on for years and has been increasing, and I think is about to, take off and do a much bigger increase. So, and I think we need to, as a, society in general, if we're talking about the intersection of humans and technology, we need to really think about what this means and where we're headed and what we're going to do about it. Because I think most people need a job to make money, to live, and most people want a job. And I think there are really big questions about what jobs will continue to exist, how the jobs will change, and what jobs are going to disappear. And I think in some ways it's maybe not what people think. So I was reading an article just recently about how, people think, oh, the danger is that the low-skilled jobs are going to disappear, right? The factory jobs, and a lot of factory jobs.
Time out.
What?
You're doing well. You're jumping.
I am. I didn't have any plan or notes. I'm just.
No. I know.
I'm speaking extemporaneously.
Well,
yes,
go
ahead.
We need to start from the simplest,
Please,
and we're
back
moving
me up.
to the more
Yeah,
complex.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to know?
So, in your history again, remind me which industries had you covered?
I didn't cover anything.
You didn't cover
really.
any industries. Okay.
I mean, what did I mention? Nothing.
Okay. So I didn't want to double. I just anyways. So there has been a lot of automation that has taken entire industries and destroyed them.
Well, remember the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. Right. So example number one, you have the looms. Okay. Back in the day, people were pushing on things, and now, of course, the things were run by steam. Okay. But there's even that. But that was simply an automation of power. But there's a lot more automation that happens, and so I'm going to jump forward a lot. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
When you were, let's say like 19, 25.
Yeah. Watch out here. We're talking about age here. Watch out.
Oh, that was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's think. Actually, it's even before then. So think of Mad Men, right? And you had all the secretaries in the 1950s running around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did secretaries, 60 years ago do?
What year are we talking?
1950. Maybe
1960.
They
would have typed.
Okay. What are they typing?
Oh, everything. Letters and memos and correspondence.
Mm-hmm.
They would have answered the phone,
Right?
run a lot of errands.
Yeah.
They took dictation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they wrote down what somebody else said and then typed it up.
Yeah.
Using, I don't know if carbon paper had been invented
Right.
then. I'm
So
not sure.
so here's the thing, and so this is the if you look at back then and what automation has kind of gotten rid of, it's actually not a whole lot. You don't have to type up notes anymore. Someone needs to take notes, but you don't need to. If you want to send a letter, you can just print it, right?
Well, you still have to type it up.
But you still have to type it up, right? Back then, you had to use a typewriter, and if you make a mistake, right, you go in and fix it. But someone still has to type it up. When you
A lot
call
of people
someplace,
still have
you still
paper
need to
files, and they still file things.
exactly. You still need to have
Yeah.
the organization, and there's still someone who answers the phone, and obviously errands have to be run. So at a certain level, okay. Those are, you would think those are pretty kind of mundane tasks, and actually, basically those jobs are kind of still around, though at a much smaller level.
But you know what? For instance,
Exactly.
some jobs really have disappeared. I remember one of my first jobs that I ever had was as a credit and collections correspondent at the Gillette Company, the people who make razor blades.
Mm-hmm.
And in the department next to us on the 35th floor of the Prudential Tower in Boston, it was an entire room full of these things we were talking about before called computers, but these were people. And they had these really interesting adding machines, I guess they were. And it was because you would walk by that area and it was just like a racket with clackety, clackety, clackety. I mean, it was really loud.
Right.
And these people, I think they were all women. There would be 30 to 40 of them in a room, heads down, just entering numbers. And I think they were little pieces of paper that would come out. And these were not, I don't know if these were plugged in or not, but it was seemed like a very manual, mechanical thing that they were doing. And, they were, I don't know what they were doing, adding up orders or adding up invoices I'm pretty sure they're not there anymore.
So think of all the purchase orders and all the receipts and all all that
all
stuff
the orders
is now
that had come in and they
automated.
were adding up how much revenue they'd had and all of that. Yeah. I mean, and they also had a very big area on one floor called filing. Right. And this was a huge place full of these full of file folders. Mm-hmm. And so if you need, a lot of the work that I had to do is I had to research, why Kmart wasn't paying their $1 million invoice.
You can't just open the spreadsheet and see the data.
No, I had to go to the filing. You had to go to filing, and then there would be a person behind the counter. There were many people.
Many
people.
You
would say, I need the K's. And they would go, someone would go and get a huge file folder for all of our clients whose name started with K. And you weren't allowed to take these with you. You had to stand there and look up what you needed. And then the person would go put it back in the filing system. So I'm pretty sure those people aren't around anymore either.
There's the phone operators who had to transfer calls.
There were a lot of phone operators.
We all remember the pictures from AT&T in the 1930s where
and
there's literally a mess of wires. You can move wires from one to the other.
That's right. So I mean, we've been losing, a lot of jobs to automation over the last 50, 60, 70 years. Now, recently we have, for instance, there was a story I read about some of the factories in China that have replaced like 90% of their workforce with industrial, basically some fairly simple industrial robots.
So just take a deep
hold
breath.
on.
Take a deep breath.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the general point is that automation is not necessarily new.
No, it's been around at least 100 years, certainly 50,
And
60
slowly
years.
and steadily, it's been dismantling various industries that were around.
Yes.
Mostly when it comes to jobs that could be easily replicated by software.
Yes.
Or manual labor type jobs. Factory jobs that could be,
At least streamlined.
yes, streamlined or, yes.
A machine could do part of it.
And that has been steadily growing since the Industrial Revolution.
That's right.
Right? You went from having, so for example, if you're stamping aluminum parts for a car, right?
Yes.
Well, back in the day, you were hammering stuff. Well, then
Right.
they got a
Stamp machine.
a stamp machine.
But a
you had to
human
put-
would work the stamp
Yeah, you have to
machine.
work the stamp machine.
Right.
And then, well, now you just kind of put it on the conveyor belt and it
Right.
stamps it, and then you take it out.
I agree.
Well,
It's been
now,
like this.
now you just press the button and it automatically loads
Right.
the aluminum roll, right? So it's like more. So it's just a slow, steady march. Okay. So that's
Yes.
part one. Is
Yes.
those are the two types of jobs that traditionally have been going away.
Yes.
Jobs that have required technical proficiency, for the most part, have stayed around. Your lawyers, your doctors.
Oh, you mean by technical, you mean a certain kind of expertise,
Yes,
knowledge.
expertise and a knowledge in a field.
A knowledge worker.
Correct. Yes. So I guess we have the repetitive tasks
Yeah.
can be broken down either into service or manual labor.
Yeah.
And traditionally, automation has come at those in various forms.
Yeah.
And then there has been non-repetitive tasks, which usually require a skilled laborer of some sort.
Yeah.
To do something. Okay.
Yep.
I remember I was told in law school, when I first started law school, maybe 6 years ago, that law was a good area to get into because you couldn't send law jobs. You couldn't like automate the legal profession. Someone had to be in the courtroom. And
Yeah, except that's changing now.
well, yeah. So right, so the big, and you can tell me which one you want to. Do you want to? I'll back up. Do you want to address
Yeah.
repetitive service tasks, repetitive manufacturing or physical labor tasks, or do you want to do the third category, which is skilled labor tasks?
All of them.
You got to pick one. We're gonna discuss each one.
All right.
One
well,
at a time.
let's start with, what were the three?
We have the repetitive tasks, which are broken down into service tasks,
Yes.
and physical and manufacturing, essentially.
Yes. Service and manufacturing, repetitive.
Repetitive, yes, and then high-level thinking jobs.
Okay. Well, let's start with the high-level thinking jobs, just
Okay.
because that's not what you thought I was going to say.
Sure. So that is obviously this is the brand new wave of automation that's coming, and this is the one. In the past, automation has always kind of been a good thing. At a
Well, it
core,
depends on who you were talking to.
No, I know, but sorry. As an economist, thinking about the overall view of the economy,
Okay.
it's always been a good thing because while yes, it did put people out of business, it was certainly people doing monotonous, repetitive tasks, low level work.
And so the idea always was, well, they can, whether this was true or not, they could be retrained to
Yes.
do more interesting
And
jobs that make more money.
And I don't want to get too much into the economics. There's an argument that there's always more low level work. right?
Yeah.
Like whatever you do, people will just consume more services, right? So we used to have to shovel coal all the
Right.
time, right?
Right.
Well, now we have natural gas lines that run into every house. You don't have to
Right.
have to someone who So in your house, I know it's an old house, there's a coal chute.
There is, where
Yes.
someone used to come and deliver the coal.
Yeah. You scoop the coal into the chute, right? The coal man would come around.
Yeah,
Well,
we don't
okay.
have that anymore.
You don't have that anymore. But right? But now you have other, now there's like other stuff that you need to do because you go to the movies. And, there's always gonna be money for kind of low level service work. Is the economic theory.
Was the idea.
Well, the
That's one
difference-
theory.
Yeah, that's one theory. But it was always thought that what you really wanted, though, was you wanted the high-skilled labor. The designers, the engineers, the lawyers.
Because they wouldn't be replaced.
You can't replace that. And more importantly, unlike manufacturing, you can't move it across overseas.
Right.
Right. So you can't outsource
Right.
a surgeon or outsource.
Although you can.
Well, what we've been seeing is a couple things. First, we're seeing the rise of outsourcing of these kind of like engineering tasks. That started in the 90s. Blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. And I'm just going to skip over all of the overseas
Tech outsourcing, because we know
outsourcing.
that's
We're
true.
just gonna roll through that.
Okay.
So now the hot new thing, because outsourcing is so passé. The thing that's so hot right now is deep learning. This is where deep learning really is going to make its mark, because with deep learning you can then start to automate skilled analysis work. In
Right.
ways
So
that you never
can you
could.
give for because there might be people listening who don't know what deep learning is. Can you give? And I really mean, Guthrie, you got to keep this short because I know you could talk about deep learning for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
So can you give a 2-minute description of what deep learning is?
Sure. It's software that mimics the way neural networks in your brain works. It looks at the way the brain computes and responds to information, and generally is software that's based around that principle.
Okay.
The bottom line is that it gets an input, right? A stimulus, if you would, and through complex algorithms that have been determined through learning, through experience, in quotes, it can give you nuanced outputs.
All right. Can you give us some examples of where deep learning has been applied and the kinds of things that now
The best
the
example,
software can do?
I'll give you two. First would be image recognition. So Google Images, I type in cat. Well, how does Google know what a cat looks like?
How does it know to go look at a whole bunch of images and bring you back pictures of cats?
Yeah, how does it know it's not a dog, right? To
And it
humans,
learned
that's
that
an
through-
easy that's an easy thing. For a computer, that's a very difficult task. What if a cat is in bushes, right? What if a cat is, what if there's something on top of it? It's just
What if
very,
it's lying down?
right? Yeah, it's a kitten or black or white. Or it's just very hard to, if you just do the traditional way of computing and of making algorithms, it's very, very difficult to come up with high levels of accuracy.
But deep learning
changed
changed that.
because you can say, here are 6 billion pictures of cats. Okay?
Right.
Come
And
up with crazy algorithms
And
that
it learns.
get
It
right
comes up with
answers.
its own.
And it
All
comes
right.
up with its own.
So-
Driverless cars are the other quick
Okay.
example,
right.
where you say you're driving along, right? The computer is getting all this input, and through very complex learning, through billions of miles driven, it can make smart, intelligent decisions in a fraction of a second based on the information that's coming in and then the algorithms that it processes in
All right.
ways that could never happen before.
So
How was that? Was that pretty good?
that was very good. So now we have this thing called deep learning. So now what were you going to say about deep learning and automation?
So now the thing is that I thought deep learning was going to be really, really difficult. Okay? I thought deep learning and neural networks, this is like a future thing. There's going to be like one company who can do this.
Yeah.
This is completely wrong. It turns out neural networks and deep learning, while difficult, is really pretty easy to set up, because within the span of a couple years, okay? Mm-hmm. Right? Google basically started deep learning, and essentially making it mainstream. And within a couple years, right, you would assume they would have that completely on lock. But now Apple does it, Facebook does it, Uber does it. There's like 17,000 startups that make driverless cars. And like making a car that drives by itself and doesn't run into anything is really hard, but everyone seems to be doing it just fine. So apparently it's just not that difficult. And so the next step is now applying deep learning and neural networks to all these other industries. And let me give you just a quick subset of skilled learning positions that will be immediately threatened by deep learning.
Go ahead.
First, coding.
Yeah.
Coding is...
Writing software
is kind of redundant. It's... especially when you're talking about lower level coding, there's an emphasis on efficiency and finding innovative solutions to just make it run better. And the other cool thing is there are many, many ways to code the same thing, right? And the only thing that matters is how fast does it run, how error-free is it, essentially. How pretty is your code.
So we're predicting, and I agree with you, so I'll say we're
it's not even a prediction. This is already happening. But it's going to
a lot of programming jobs are going to start to disappear, are disappearing.
Well, I disagree.
Really?
There's a huge shortage of programmers. So
you don't think necessarily that jobs are going to disappear. It's just that they'll just use deep learning to
it'll suck up some of the
shore up the fact that we don't have enough.
Yes. Yeah. So the way this works is you write very, very high level code that tells the deep learning algorithm, I need to basically create a very secure login system. Okay?
Yeah.
Please come up with one for me that fits with my current database.
Yeah.
Right? And it will help you do that. Right now they're using it as analyze the code I've written and make it better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the debugging process of coding, I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's kind of it's not exactly, it takes a while, okay? And you have to be smart about it. And even then, if you're really getting down and trying to squeeze out every little bit of inefficiency and make your code as streamlined as possible, takes a lot of time and effort. Well, things that take a lot of time and effort are something that computers do really, really well. So you can instantly analyze your code a trillion times and find a more elegant solution.
We may not agree on this, but I think if we can, let's just kind of broad brush this and then move on to the next category. But I think that many programming, coding, even up now to designing jobs will be done either entirely or partly through automation in the very near future.
And I was just going to say, we're also just seeing this when it comes to HTML website code. There used to be, all these people getting paid huge sums of money to design HTML. Yeah. No one is doing HTML design anymore. Maybe you're doing, Java, JS, JavaScript stuff, or maybe some PHP backend stuff. But people are using Squarespace and Wix and these drag and drop template tools. We use Bootstrap, which makes the process a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's that's for one small subset of code.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it will expand.
Yeah, that's going to expand greatly. So the idea that you learn how to write code and be a programmer and then you'll have a job for life, I think is in jeopardy. All right, let's move on from code
I will just say.
Yeah, I know you don't agree.
Certain types of programming will go away, but there will always be a need for programmers. And the nice thing about programmers is they're very smart and they can fairly quickly adapt new programming languages.
Yeah, we may not agree on this, but okay. Next.
Next, the law. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. The vast majority, so that whole thing, like you have to have a lawyer in a courtroom, that is true, but a very, very small percentage of people who go to law school end up doing they're what's called litigation.
Yeah, anything in a courtroom.
There's transactional work, which is transactions, business stuff outside of the court. And then there's, litigation, like you can't handle the truth kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Even then, the vast majority of the time that you spend is outside of the courtroom. You're writing stuff, you're doing research, you're writing stuff, more writing, lots of writing, and research. So right now, a lot of the research is done it's basically done by the underlings. The lower down the level you are, the more mundane and the more kind of basic your tasks are. Anywhere from proofing something to, again, doing research.
Right.
Deep learning is going to take the legal industry by storm, and it's already starting. A couple high-level companies have started rolling out. For example, I know of a product where if you're looking at a certain issue, it will give you a visual, like cloud-based representation of that law.
Yeah. Because
every single legal case has citations, right?
Yeah.
And so creates this beautiful data web. And then if you can apply some smart learning to that, you can determine which, for example, so I'll back up. Let's just say I have a case in which I'm trying to get someone off who was a street performer who didn't have a license, okay?
Yeah.
In my jurisdiction. Well, I would go to my law deep learning algorithm. I'd type in street performer and no license, okay? And I would say I'm a defendant. The computer software would analyze every single legal case that's ever happened, with the emphasis being, of course, on newer cases, and identify which cases went well for defendants. They'd analyze, you could put in the facts of your case, it could differentiate between the different facts of the different cases, and within a couple seconds, give you the cases most relevant to your facts. Instantly, high quality, with perfect citations.
And then there's the lawyer guy in California who's now got an automated system for appealing parking tickets.
Yes, that's a good one.
He's using. I think he's said he was using some deep learning for that.
Yes, some very basic deep learning. Basically, you say, I've gotten a parking ticket, I'd like to contest, and you give it some basic information, and it produces what a lawyer would do, right? Which is a very basic. I'd like to appeal my parking violation.
And when I read about that one, the people in the city who you go to pay your parking ticket to, and appeal, they love this because they said they're finally getting letters that make sense and they can understand. All right, and then we have doctors.
The law is very funny because
we have doctors.
Okay, I'll move on. I could talk about the law for a long
I
time.
know you could. I'm going to stop you.
Doctors are a little harder, but in the same way that you can analyze a certain subset of facts, you can analyze a subset of test results and of what you diagnose, right?
And there's maladies that you have. There's surgeon robots.
The one big problem, and it's definitely a big problem, is there's still nuances where that deep learning needs to cross. So, for example, patients lie all the time, and you have to be able to identify that and account for that.
I don't know that the doctors are very good at that anyway.
I think the doctors are. I think they're better than you think, but but yes, diagnosis is a perfect one. Another one, right? Just off the top of my head, pharmacists, right? If you have to go to school for pharmacy, it is very tough to become a pharmacist, and it's because if you give someone medication A, and then they get prescribed medication B, and it turns out if you take the two of those, like you die,
Yeah.
right? The pharmacist is like, oh, wait, definitely don't do that, right? That's what a pharmacist does. You can do a bunch of deep learning. You would know every single subset, blah, 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 blah. It would be way more efficient if the deep learning program had your DNA. So it could automatically scan for any genetic disorders and then cross-reference that with any medications you might be taking.
All right, so I want to move this all ahead.
Okay.
So I think we've established. I mean, and then in the manufacturing, we know that Tesla makes its cars with robots and.
But I just want to say one more quick thing.
What?
Engineering is another big one. In the same way that you can make more efficient computer programs, you can make more efficient engineering choices, and based on models with deep learning and automate some of the engineering ideas.
Right.
Okay, so you're ready to move on to the more mundane tasks?
Yeah, and then I want to move on to the future and what I think this means for.
Okay, well, I can make the mundane tasks quick. I think people know a lot about that. You mentioned the robots in China. I do have the article
and the
pulled
factory.
up.
Yeah.
So, the factory in China replaced 90% of its workers with robots.
Yeah.
That were doing kind of just basic manufacturing tasks, and robots modern robots for manufacturing work are so advanced these days. Anyways, production went up by 250%, and number of defects decreased 80%.
Yeah. And this is happening everywhere.
It shouldn't be any surprise that manufacturing hardware defects are caused by careless employees.
Well, I don't want to say careless.
Well, humans
make errors. They get tired. It's not like
we have
they
less
don't
precision,
care.
so we can't do. Yeah. We weren't built to do the same task
a
gazillion
times
to a thousandth of an inch every time. We have.
It's just not what.
What I think no one realizes is that almost all of there's been, I don't know, a couple billion iPhones made. It's definitely over a billion.
Yeah.
Every single iPhone was put together by tiny hands in China. Every single one. It's amazing. If you just think of all the phones in the world, it's just being made by quite a large army of manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, the tech companies are trying to change that, and they've slowly been automating more and more and more of that process, right? Where instead of people putting together all the parts, now robots put together, part A, part B, part C, and then the, human puts those together. Well, now they're trying to get even more and reduce the number of robots. So Foxconn, which is the largest, I think they're the largest manufacturer in the world based on a number of employees, and they make all the iPhones.
Yeah.
They are starting their first phase of basically replacing the vast majority of its human employees, and it'll just be robots. Which if you're trying to make an iPhone that's literally identical to a billion other iPhones, makes a lot of sense. And the big driver in this, really, is that robots, and this is where we're going to get into a segue into your thing perfectly. Robots are cheaper than human labor. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pay them wages. You don't have to pay them overtime. You don't have to have as high level of safety standards. You they don't go on vacation. They can work 24 hours a day. They don't get tired. They don't make mistakes. And like I said, most importantly, they don't get healthcare and they don't get paid.
Yeah.
So they're just really cheap.
Yep.
And as robotics get better and cheaper, and employees demand higher wages.
Yeah.
So I'll let you take over. And, you can do what you want.
This is just gonna keep expanding, and in the then I've talked to people about this, and they'll say, yeah, but there'll always be, you'll always need people to work in stores and restaurants, but we know that that's not true.
Yep.
We're gonna do I think a podcast episode on the future of retail, so I won't go into a lot of detail on that. But basically, a lot of what happens in a store is going to start to go away for a variety of reasons.
You think that McDonald's doesn't have a robot in their headquarters that can build a Big Mac?
Yeah, I stayed at a hotel in New York that had pretty much maybe I think it had 4 or 5 people in the whole hotel that worked there, because they had automated check-in. You got yourself checked in. They had automated luggage handling with a robot. Everything was automated. I remember they had one person, in case you needed something for some reason, there was one person in the building you could go talk to. And then I think they had a couple of people cleaning.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of the things we think of as service jobs are going to start to go away.
Garbage collection.
Yeah. There's just...
Taxis.
There's so much disruption happening in every industry, and
truck drivers.
When I look at it, I see this and I see it increasing rapidly. And I know many people who know about it, but I think there's a lot of people who may not realize how fast the pace is accelerating in this. So, what does this mean in terms of jobs? Because we already have a lot of people in the U.S., at least, kind of bemoaning the fact that good paying jobs are disappearing. And I don't know that this is going to go backwards. And even if manufacturing comes back into the country, which is what some people believe will save us, we now know, as what you said, that a lot of that's going to be automated. So what the heck are we going to do? Like, how are people going to find work that will pay them a living wage, and how will they, much less find work that they enjoy that pays them a living wage, if a lot of these high-paying jobs you were talking about are also going away? So I have one kind of interesting idea that someone else brought up, but that I can talk about in this, about where we might be headed. Possibly somewhat controversial, but do you have any ideas on this, Guthrie? If you were talking to a 5-year-old and wanting to give them career advice, what would you tell them?
So, would you like me to give the economic answer, or should I put my economist hat on?
Is it even possible to not put your economist hat on?
Sure, I can put my philosophy hat on.
Oh, I don't know if I can handle that. Whatever hat you want to wear.
So, I have a degree in economics. I'm an economist. The question...
Yeah.
And it dabbles over a little. The question that we, as a society, especially the United States, have to decide is if we want to have capitalism.
Okay. Whoa.
No, time out. Hold on.
I didn't know you were going there. No, I don't know that I want to go there.
No, that's fine, right? Let's just assume the answer.
Think you're right,
let's assume the answer is yes, and we'll assume that we want a system based on free market, okay?
Okay, good.
I just want to start there. Because the reality of the situation is that everything has to make sense if you're working about stuff in a free market, it has to make competitive sense.
Yeah.
And so if a robot can work at an auto factory and it's cheaper than if the company hires you to work at the auto factory, what's the long-term play? You're getting replaced. If you look at so I can make a high-quality automobile in Michigan and pay people $40 an hour. Or I can make a high-quality automobile in Mexico and it's exactly the same, and I can sell it, and I have to pay people $15 an hour, right? What's the writing on the wall? What makes sense? And in the short term, maybe kind of things come and go, right? But when you look at the long-term picture, it's not surprising that it ends up going in whatever way is most efficient.
Okay.
And that's good. That's free market. That's the power
I know, but
of the free market.
So what are people going to do for work, though?
So the thing that you have to identify then is you have to identify where can I do something in which there's a competitive advantage for me doing it in some ways. What can I do that is cheaper than some sort of automated solution or can't be automated?
Okay, and your answer is?
So there's a couple ways, okay?
Yeah.
First, things that have to do with making humans happy.
Yes.
For the
that's exactly where I was headed.
Well, we think alike.
And we haven't talked about this.
Very difficult to automate, and even if it could be automated, people wouldn't want it automated. So, things like customer service, things like people who welcome you at a hotel, though that may eventually disappear.
I was thinking
go ahead.
more about teaching people how to relax, personal trainers, teaching meditation.
Well, that's a very small subset.
Massage therapists.
Just things that people like to have a personal touch on.
Yeah.
A waiter at a restaurant. We have fast casual. There is no need for waiters and waitresses, really. There's, from a technical standpoint.
But
right?
you might want to go to a restaurant
want to have
where there is people.
You get that personal service, okay?
Right.
Like I said, you said about the person in the hotel.
Yeah.
I bet you, at a lot of cheap bargain bin hotels, they will disappear, and they are disappearing.
But
at
the fancy
premium
ones,
hotels, the concierge will always be there. Not because they're needed, but because the human touch
is this going to be enough jobs for everyone?
Well, so okay. Well, let me add a couple more things, and then I'll answer that question. So, so next, okay, things involving culture.
Yes, celebrities.
No, but don't even think about celebrities. Think about cultural things.
Like?
So, musicians and artists and things people do in their free time.
Yeah.
And like you said, the teachers and trainers of, various hobbies.
Yes.
Things people spend their money doing.
Yeah.
Okay? That can't really be done a whole lot by... that can't really be replaced.
And or even if it was, you'd still want that special person doing it.
Right. A robot rapping, yes, maybe, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And the United States basically leads the world in culture and cultural ideas.
Well, I'm sure there'd be some people listening that would disagree with that.
That's our biggest export.
Well, I don't know about
if you look at pop music all over the world, it's basically...
I don't know if I agree with that one. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's right. All right. So we've got things that make that make people happy.
Yeah. So things that need a human touch.
Things that need a human touch. Yeah.
The next part is what we've heard as it's a bit of a kind of a hot phrase, but jobs in the idea economy.
What's that?
So jobs that are basically people whose job it is to have and implement ideas. Okay.
All right, wait a minute.
Entrepreneurs would be the best example.
What about marketing people and sales people?
Marketing and sales, I fall into the human touch category.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't have a computer algorithm automatically send friendly emails.
Which it does. But people like to to buy
call
stuff from
and be
other people.
wooed, and yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
so marketing, right? Twitter, right? It's a little bit of culture, it's a little bit of human touch.
Okay. All right.
But because if you actually need, like, here are our products, here are their prices, please
Right.
purchase, right? Like,
Right.
you can automate all of that, but you know about humans like to communicate with other humans. So yes, the idea economy. The idea economy is the people, first of all, who are entrepreneurs, who are coming up with new efficient ways to do stuff. People who design buildings, like architects. I think engineering will take. I think with the hard sciences, especially engineering and computer programming, I think basically this will accelerate the need. So even on the bottom end, as automation eats up the bottom end of the computer programming jobs,
Yeah.
the more automation you have, the more you need the top end. Right?
But it's not a routine coder.
Well, it's different.
Not,
It's different. It's different because you're really creating, because you have to create the programs that do this basic level stuff. There's a lot of UX field is going to explode as you have more and more interfaces, more and more things that are done by this code. That's, so basically you have the people who make the machines. And I know it sounds like it's going to be a small subset, but as more and more and more stuff is done by all these different companies with all this different software, that's a lot of products. So I think that's going to be pretty big.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay.
Also research. There's always going to be more to do in the hard sciences. That's always good.
Okay.
So those are the big ones. And over the last, 60 years, we've gone from a manufacturing economy to a service economy. We've done that even before deep learning. It's 70% of our economy is service now. Restaurants and, banks and all that kind of stuff. So that's basically already happened, because we don't need people to shovel coal, and we don't need all these people at the manufacturing plants.
All right. So what
Well, before you ask your question, because it's going to be a good question, I just want to tie it up with one last point, and this is the philosophical argument.
Go ahead.
Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, we have been destroying industries.
Yes.
And you know what? There are just as many people unemployed as there ever have been. There seems to be the same amount of work that needs to be done. And the economic argument is, well, if you make an industry more efficient, and then you don't have to pay people those salaries, well, then that service gets cheaper, there's more money, that money has to go somewhere, it goes into a different industry, that industry has to hire more people, right? So, as long as there's money in the economy, you're going to spend it on something, and eventually you got to spend, the person who's making all that money spends it on something, and eventually there's going to be a need, and someone will have to be hired to fill that need. That's the argument.
All right. I'm going to say that one of the new jobs that needs to get created is we have to get better at figuring out and helping people transition. Because we're going to get these waves of people that are going to get displaced. And to just assume that they can figure out what to do, that they can figure out how to retool or retrain, that they don't live in the right place, right now, I don't think we do a very good job of making that transition, and we end up with really upset people who can't find good work, and employers who can't find people. And we're not, and so that's one of the new type of jobs, would be that human touch to bring together the innovators and the entrepreneurs with the people who need to learn new stuff. And I also think we've got to do better at our colleges, at our high schools, letting people know what jobs are coming up and what to do to get ready for them, because I still see, I teach at a university and they're cranking out the same programmers and coders, and that's not true. I shouldn't say that. There's been a recognition of and a switch to recently in the curriculum in the department where I teach, but it doesn't happen easy enough and fast enough. It's not keeping pace with the change.
Well, so here's the thing, right? I was talking about capitalism. That's why I started with capitalism. I started with free trade.
Yeah.
And it's a system for creating the most efficient outcome.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it does. That's all it's ever meant to do. And that doesn't the idea that you're an American and ergo you're privileged to have a high-paying, good job. Okay? Free trade, economics doesn't care. It doesn't care about people. It's called the dismal science for a reason.
We could. I don't know that I want to go into all this right now, but I could argue with you about the fact that if all capitalism cares about is efficiency, then why do you have these situations where you don't have enough? We need more X, we need more Y.
Well, that's because the market isn't operating correctly. And look, you'll get there eventually, but sometimes it takes a lot of time, and you have to think. Again, we're in a global economy, at least we are this week, and you have to think on a global level. Everyone's in the same big boat, and there are going to be people who are economic losers. Not that they're going to have a loss because of the changes. That's the reality, and it takes time for new economies to spring up.
Well, I want you to. We'll close with with my request to you to fix that. Okay.
If I would love, if I was supreme leader,
because I just think that we could do a better job of. I don't even expect us to predict. Things change, and we don't know how they're going to change. And I don't know that I'm saying, we should be able to predict 50 years ahead what kind of jobs. No, I'm not saying that. But we should be able to look 1 year ahead, 2 years ahead maybe, and then be able to do something so that where there are shortages of workers, we can, take the people who need the work and figure out how to get them into these places where there's a shortage.
Well, that is a very American-centric argument to me.
No, I think it's a deep learning algorithmic argument. That's all I'm saying. And I would like us to apply our human touch and our deep learning abilities to solve. What isn't it? Isn't this what we've been talking about? Solving problems, innovation, and this is a problem, and I think we should figure out how to solve it.
But here's the thing:
what?
It doesn't take deep learning to give you the answer. Name an industry that's having this problem.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll pick one for you. Programming. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a shortage of programmers in the United States. There are plenty of programmers around the world. They're not allowed to come work in the United States, and if they are, it's a very difficult and expensive process to do so. That doesn't mean that there's necessarily a problem. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Like you could have, deep learning could tell you, oh, why don't you just match all these programmers in Malaysia with these companies who need good quality programming? or same with nurses, or same with all these other industries, of which other countries are doing an excellent job training really good quality workers. And that's not a problem that AI can fix, because that's a cultural, political.
All right. Well, I definitely don't want to get into cultural political.
God,
so you know what?
It's the worst.
Let's stop there. So do you think that we've been optimistic or pessimistic here?
Well, I'm optimistic. Bill Nye the Science Guy has the same. He gets asked this question a lot. He talks about automation pretty regularly, and he says the same. He basically has the philosophical argument that I had. Industries have come and gone, and there's we've always found something else to do. Be innovative. What's important is having a culture of innovation and of entrepreneurship and of inspiration.
All right.
And,
will you be the optimist?
And as long as you have that, anytime people need to find a job or need to create something or don't have anything to do, they'll figure out something new. That's what makes humans so great.
Then I'm going to be the pessimist.
Oh no, don't do that.
Yeah, which I'm not usually. I'm going to be the pessimist, and I'm going to say that we can't just, sit around and wait for the system to work it all out as it always does, that we need to intervene and come up with some innovative solutions to help this along, because I don't like seeing the distress and upheaval this will cause while we wait for the system to right itself. I want to fiddle with the controls.
And so you need government.
Okay, we're not going there, and I'm not running for office. I'm not even going to run for village board. Okay, so all right, Guthrie, the optimist. I'm glad you're an optimist. I'm glad somebody's an optimist about this one. So everyone out there, figure out what if you're under 65, maybe figure out what your next training and toolkit's going to be.
It's hard to know how fast this is all going to come.
It's going to. All right, pessimist here. Raise my hand.
Yeah. We didn't talk about time
really fast.
Because
fast.
So you're 35
really
right now,
fast.
and you do something that maybe could become automated in the future. But your office is still running Windows XP.
No, it doesn't matter. It's fast. I don't care that your office is running Windows XP. Your office could be gone tomorrow, XP or not. So fast. It needs to. I think this is all going to happen fast.
So this isn't a human life scale. This is like a decade life scale, in your opinion?
Oh, less.
5 years.
Yes, absolutely. I think if you're not thinking about. I think if you have anyone in the workplace absolutely has to think in 5 years or less, whatever job they are doing. Now, it's possible that they're doing one of these high touch jobs and, human touch and human happiness jobs, and they're going to be okay. But I think for many, many people, I would be so bold as to say most people, I think within 5 years, the industry you are in might go automated in a big way, and so I think everybody needs to stop and say, okay, should my career become automated in a big way, what am I going to do next, and start thinking about it and preparing for it now. That's my advice and recommendation. And 5 years from now, you can check in.
Office?
I'm sure. And 5 years from now, you can check in and we'll see whether I was right or not. That's my prediction. 5 years, I think, is a long time. I think for a lot of people, it's much less than 5. Okay. And with that very optimistic note, just think of it as a positive career move. We will end our episode today. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. And Guthrie, where would they email us?
info@theteamw.com.
And If you like our podcast, please share it. Please like it. Please talk about it. That helps us get more people listening, which, because we crave human touch and applause, we really like to do that. And I think that's it. Anything else, Guthrie?
Nope.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
We will talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.